discussion on freedom of press and media in Kalpakshetra Auditorium, Sunday, 8th September 2024.
Ellarigu namaskara. As Ravi said, even though the topic of today's event is the Ice Age for free speech, I think most people are chilled out about this free speech. That's why they are not shown up here. But we hope that free speech remains central to our lives and to our thoughts and actions too. So with this, I would like to now introduce our speaker, Mr. Alok Prasanna Kumar. As Ravi already mentioned, he is the co-founder of Vidhi Karnataka, a center for legal policy. I'm sure is going to be, at least in some form or the other, a law for Karnataka, which I hope will bring justice and voice to the gig workers, which are such a large number. Of course, the platforms have given, I would say, livelihoods to.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, ma'am, so much for that very generous introduction. Bill 2023, and the threat it posed to the media in India. And he reached out to me on the 14th of August 2024. Freedom and free speech are out there, and unfortunately, not everyone understands exactly what is the source of this threat. So, which is why I chose the title for this talk, An Ice Age for Free Speech, with the idea of showing you how the law has a widespread chilling effect on media freedoms and free speech in India. Now, the term chilling effect is something which the US Supreme Court used when they were talking about laws which don't per se say you can't say this, but they will say if you say this, this is what will happen to you. That creates a chilling effect, that in your mind you censor yourself. Nobody needs to say, I will do this if you do this. In your mind, you are censoring yourself. So they use the term chilling effect. And I thought I should build on that idea and that concept and show why we are living in an ice age for free speech. And which I will still talk about. It has come about in a certain legal and institutional context. And if we need to push back against future encroachments and even the current challenges to free speech in India, we must understand what is the context in which these encroachments are being made. So what I propose to do, the first is just the introduction, giving the context. The three parts that I'm talking about are titled Why Our Godi Media is Godi. This is the Hindi Godi, not the Kannada Godi. I realized that after I put it, but I think it's a phrase that everyone should be familiar with. The second part is anti-free speech injunctions from courts. And the third part, which ma'am just initially mentioned a little bit, is controlling social media. But the final part is, I think, what is to be done, right? Because free speech is more than just the ability to talk. So the second refers to defamation laws, and the third refers to the proposed broadcasting services bill. Now, just to clarify, these are not the only three laws which impact media freedoms in India. But there's a reason I want to focus on them. And that is because in this day and age, with the technology that we have, and when I say technology, I mean broadcast technology and social media, you are not going to get, like I said earlier, an official censor or a government body which is going to try and tell the press what to cover and what not to cover. Okay? There we go. This is a screenshot from the Hindu newspaper, but what I'm referring to is the World Press Freedom Index. This has ranked so low. Okay? Now, the Reporters Sans Frontiers, this body, and I'll just read it out because it is very instructive. Which I have titled Why Our Godi Media is Godi. And I'll talk about one particular news channel, and this has happened 2 years ago. I'll start with the story of Media One. Okay, Media One is a Malayalam. Cost of taking that risk might be too high. The impact of it might just be too large. My channel might get shut down. My investment may go down. Why take risks? I just talked about was the judiciary. Well, a mistake. Because these speech injunctions. Again, time to start with the story. You'll see two eminent gentlemen on this photograph, both of whom have till recently been MPs, one of whom continues to be an MP. That's not why they're here. Why they're here is both of them used a particular legal measure which shows the kind of threats that the judiciary can pose to free speech. I mean, for those of you who don't know, that's Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar and Tejasvi Surya. Back in 2019, when Tejasvi Surya was announced as the candidate for Bangalore South constituency on behalf of the BJP, what is called a ex parte ad interim injunction. It's a lot of Latin, I'll explain. Suit against every single news channel, every single newspaper outlet operating out of Bangalore, or more or less, if not every single one. I think invitation to free speech, understandable. But this is essentially using the rules of civil procedure. So famous. Anything bad said about me is going to affect my reputation. So stop this. Unfortunately, the practice has developed, and this is a very Bangalore and Karnataka specific problem. This is what in the US context is called a slap suit. It's called a strategic litigation against public participation. I must say, whoever came up with the acronym is a genius. Because even without me explaining that once again with a story, this time a slightly more optimistic story. Those of you who have followed the news will be aware that NDTV was acquired by the Adani Group. And what technology has done is it has made it very easy for someone with good content to find an audience. Previously, right, if YouTube wasn't there, there is no way you would reach 10,000 people. People came to his house and said, "How are you managing?" He said, "I'll manage." He said, "Don't worry, you want any groceries from my shop, you call and tell, it's all free." People came with tins of oil saying, "You want this?" 2023. This was a bill. I know a lot of people sort of think about it as something which is a post-2024 election phenomenon. Actually, it's not. It was doing the circuit last year itself. And primarily, this was something which was, we want a mechanism that will allow us to control digital content creators in the same way that we can control, including individuals knowledgeable about various social groups, women, child welfare, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and minorities. And you have to share this list with the government. What can we do about this? So, two principles which I don't think I have the time or the knowledge to be able to give a detailed plan of action, but two things about how do we push back, because at the end of the day, no one else is going to do this work for us. It's pretty much our responsibility, because we as citizens enjoy this right of freedom of speech and expression. For this right to be meaningful, we need a free media. And to ensure that we have a free media, it's only we at the end of the day who can do anything about it. So what is to be done? Two broad principles which I think we should all keep in mind for this. This is a quote, you will find various versions of it floating around on the internet, but this is the original made by a person called Andrew Lewis. His origin is not that important. If you are not paying for it, you are not the customer. Reaction, your brain is saying, why are you doing this? Do that thing which you got that reaction last time. If everyone were to say the same thing, be reasonable, kind, patient, we don't get these reactions. When you say something that gets people upset, that gets people angry, emotional, they react then. We start putting out more things to elicit those reactions, elicit those emotions. But who benefits from this? It's an important thing to keep in mind in the context of ensuring a free and independent media. A free media which is entirely free for us to consume may not be the media that we want to consume. It may be the media that someone else wants us to consume. It may be the media the advertiser is happy to consume. It may be the media the owner of the company wants us to consume. But we don't get to choose. And which is why I think the new push towards having paid subscriptions, paying for media is very important. Right? To us, how can you shake the world gently? Doesn't make sense. Ms. Nirupama Rao, former Foreign Secretary of India, she explained this in a very beautiful way. Speech, I think, in a UN event. Her point was what this is asking you to do, what the Mahatma asked you to do, is to engage with your government, engage with your local civic authorities. In a way, push them to make change. But do it in a way which does not turn the dial up to 10 from day one. And you start slowly, you engage with them civilly, and complete revolution. And that is of sustained civil engagement that moves the needle a little forward, a little forward, a little forward. And I think that is perhaps what we all ought to remember. If we say government is too far, government is this too distant, government will remain too far, government will remain too distant. I know a lot of you have served in government. What we as, unfortunately that image is not turning up, but please keep this in mind. Shake the world, but gently. We can't throw up our hands, and as that famous song goes, Agadu yendo kai kuliti nintare, agadu kelsa mundre. We have to push forward. We have to be able to say, I can make a little bit of difference. I need to engage. I need to tell the government. I need to convey to the government. I need to do this. And that is the way governments are pushed to act, pushed to change. So I'll conclude on this hopeful note that as you know, I've used the metaphor of an ice age, and an ice age happens for reasons beyond our control. Those of you who are geologists will know about Milankovitch cycles and all of those things, where sometimes the Earth's temperature drops, but it comes back to normal on its own. That's not the case with media and the government. If we have to end this ice age, it's we who are there. And how do we act? This is what I've been trying to talk about. Where do we have to act? These are the problems that I've identified. And what we do next is up to you.
Talk. My question is about SLAP. And there are activists whom I work with who have been slapped. And how do we create content so that the details of the slap and we can get justice for, you mentioned civil defamation, they are under criminal defamation. So how do we go about creating content, like for example, get Ravish Kumar to speak about it? How do we go about making the idea of slap as being against freedom of speech?
There is an awareness, but there is no organization. This is where one of those things which I think there is enormous potential for in the next 10-15 years, if not shorter time period. India's activists, not-for-profits, NGOs are not organizing in a particular way around these issues. These are issues which are slightly different from, say, the right to work, the right to education. They reached out to the government. 1 week after that, government was running to the Supreme Court and saying, please do it. Organization. Unfortunately, on free speech issues, we don't have that organization. Media won't talk to news media won't talk to the other. Activists who are working on this think all media is the same except 1 or 2 entities. They don't talk to them on this. Not-for-profits which are suffering this, they don't talk to activists, they don't talk to the others. What we need is this kind of broad coalition and create an alliance or an ecosystem of people who will come together and talk only about free speech issues, learn from each other, provide support, and show up. There's a great saying which says 80% of life is just showing up.
Look, I think I am audible. I am Professor Jagannatha, formerly scientist engineer ISRO.
Yes.
The last part of your response provokes me to speak back. My question is very simple. If we agree that the egos cripple the possibilities of working together, you did not touch upon an issue. That is, the crisis of present day is failure of dialogues. Any psychologist will agree. What I say, you did not touch this point. That point is enabling the community to take care of itself. Enabling the community to take care of itself. And also I do not agree with you that there are no efforts. I am a part of UN and WHO. sell in your country? My answer was very simple. I will ask myself and all others to use their fingers to decide upon what is misinformation and disinformation. And cut it then and there. No scope for further. Now I am not buying newspaper. Please look at the good practices of enabling the community. The last thing I would like to tell you, 2021 I became a part of WMO, World Meteorological Organization, where hundreds of community-based and nature-based solutions for climate change.
Yes.
You see, I'm sorry, I'll stop at this.
There are specific community efforts. I'll give you one fantastic example. Everyone should check this out afterwards. This is the initiative called Khabar Lahariya. Some of you may have heard of it. These are people have different views, people have very different views. There is a national network when it comes to the rights of Adivasis, Dalits, Muslims, various communities. Can we do it for issues as opposed to identity? As opposed to what I'm asking for in response to Mr. Ambedkar's question was, how do we build this nation? How
control of our actions, etc. But at one level, it is these kinds of algorithms taking control, which is pushing people, let's say, and creating phenomena such as Dhruv Rathi, Abhishek Banerjee, Deshmukh, and all of those things, which in a way, I mean, what I have read is that it was responsible for their aggressive actions of creating these videos just before the 2024 elections. Perhaps that could also be the reason why the broadcast was, because they were saying YouTube is going to be, right? So my point here, my question is, to a certain extent, these algorithms are useful. There is an upside to the algorithms pushing us towards the related content, pushing us towards and creating the tipping point for the revolution that we are talking about.
these channels for us. 5 years it may be a very different situation. 5 years later I might be here giving another talk about how YouTube has destroyed media freedom in India. But it is possible, because this is the scary thing about algorithms that not a lot of people fully understand. Even the makers don't know how they work. They tell them, I want you to achieve this, which is optimized for me getting more money. Algorithm finds a way to do it. Right?
I'm Umapati, Ice Age for free speech. Wonderfully, you have made it to defreeze with your analysis, and we are warmed up towards it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You see, free speech is basis of building society. It is the most essential thing for working democracy. In this age, both are in danger because of hyper technology that is flooding society. In this context, the arrest of that telegram Russian-born owner of the telegram is a very important, I think, stage, because his argument is there shall be no control over speech, because word is not danger, weapon is danger. If anybody takes up a weapon against a society or a democracy, government, you must then get worried. But word should not be a danger.
This is a very, it's a very high. Telegram deletes these channels. These are channels where illegal activity is carried on very freely. One school of thought says whatever illegal activity happens, you cannot hold the creator of the platform responsible. Another school of thought says that was true when technology was at its initial phases, when the internet was new, when companies were small, when you wanted to encourage innovation. Today we have gotten to the phase where these are not just large organizations, not just profit-making organizations, they are sometimes more powerful than governments themselves. For the content being uploaded on them. How and why, we can figure out a legal mechanism, ensure there is fairness, ensure there isn't restriction of free speech too much beyond a point. But from what I understand in the specific context of Pavel Durov, the French government is saying you have violated the laws of France. Now, he is not a resident of France. The Telegram entity, can he be held criminally responsible? This is a difficult one. I will give you an Indian context for that.
Twitter by buying it at $44 billion. And within a week or two, he said, I'm going to restore Trump's account. And he did that. And now he is brazenly saying, supporting Trump, and he's saying, if you want to make America great again, stop the immigrants, do this, do that, impose tariffs on China, all that kind of thing, and support Trump.
The crisis of parliamentary democracy. And his context was very specific. The Weimar Republic. It was only 5 years since the Weimar Constitution had come into force in Germany. He had said, this is the problem that we are facing. And he looked across Europe.